information. So we need some kind of balance between the utilization and the protection of the personal information.
Let me ask you, then, what kind of government officers participated, and also who are the stakeholders participated in this particular forum? Definitely economists, and also how about Justice Ministry officials maybe, and who else?
Absolutely. Well, we are very proud that the Korean president and the KCC chair participated in the meeting. That's something which is very important to us, and it was my pleasure to meet him. And then, of course, so Korea was very successful in inviting about 30 other ministerial leaders from the United States, from France, the minister from France, who's responsible for the internet economy, and then ministers from a lot of other OECD countries. On top, ministers from non-OECD countries, from Indonesia, representatives from China, etc. So, but as you say, the OECD already 10 years ago was a multi-stakeholder organization. So 10 years ago, it was a revolution to invite civil society and business to discuss it.
Human rights, of course, we invite NGOs, but I'm surprised economic organizations are inviting civil society.
This was 10 years ago. Today, it's the only way forward. You cannot and should not leave it to governments alone, because governments are not always knowing the details about the future as well. Neither do businesses, but we're very proud to have involved the civil society and academics, people like Lawrence Lessig, you may have heard about, and Korean NGOs on human rights, on privacy, on creativity, education, but also businesses. So there's a number of CEOs there, of Skype, for example, of KT Telecom. So we're very proud.
Dr. Jung, what will be the Korea's role in current growing and building coalition on this internet diplomacy and economy? And also, what will be our challenges to make our country capable to embrace and also make best out of this kind of economy?
Korea, known as one of the most digitized countries, I said before, and according to the ITU, Korea is ranked at the first in terms of this opportunity index for the last 3 years. So our level of the using the internet and using the broadband network is really high.
And my daughter is only 5 years old, but she already used game, and she's learning her language from internet, more so from internet than father.
According to some statistics, actually, 2/3 of Korean children they use the internet at the age of 5. We have a lot of experience, and the children are exposed to.
Is it good though?
There might be some contradict.
Come on.
My son is 1 year old. Next week, and he's not using the internet quite yet. But when writing this book on the participative web, I researched the statistics from Korea, and the 3 to 5 year olds. When I saw the percentage, I was very much amazed. And as a parent, you have to ask the question, and I think you're doing it, whether it's good or bad. And as with any technology, there's two things going on. So I think this balance that I was talking about in face of legislation, this balance as a parent, especially with respect to games, for example, you have to put in practice. But you see those, like Lawrence Lessig put it yesterday, policymakers today have to be humble, because we cannot pretend necessarily that we are part of the generation which has grown up with the internet in the same way as our kids do. And so this humility has to be reflected in policy.
Dr. wunsch-vincent, what's the reality of the digital society is that there is a digital divide, and there's become even bigger gaps. So is that one of the issues the ministers are addressing, perhaps?
Absolutely. Beyond the 3 C's I mentioned a couple of times, global development is an issue. Currently, there's about 1.3 billion internet users connected, out of about 6.2 world population. So we have another 5 billion to go. Now there is optimism because increasingly the speed is taking up even in developing countries. And as we can access the internet through mobile device, the speed with which the access will grow in the next years is quite high because a lot of people have mobile device.
Let me ask you a more specific question. Like UN came up with some kind of, either UN or some private companies came up with a really like $100 like laptop kind of thing,
per
right?
Child, yeah.
So is that something OECD has a jurisdiction or like to engage or maybe encourage OECD countries to do something like that?
My Secretary General has met Nicolas Negroponte on the One Laptop per Child initiative.
Oh, is that right?
Right. And so we have engaged in discussions and are supporting the initiative. However, the OECD is not a development bank or an organization who funds specific projects and goes into the field to actually deploy technology. The OECD's strength is more about formulating policy approaches and best practices. How do you regulate the market to have technology flourish? How do you make sure that regulations are in place or that foster this sort of innovation? In a lot of countries, it is not necessarily about financial deployment issues alone, but it is often also about how the market and how investment is being structured, allowed from foreign companies, for example, how governments prevent their citizens from using the internet. And so in these things, the OECD is very much involved, and we hope to be setting some standards. Privacy is one where we believe that our recommendation sometimes is being adopted. With the help of member countries, advanced countries, with Korea, we shape ideas, and those countries can try to take those on, and we learn from them as well.
Dr. Jung, I think that Korea has to do our own preparation and homework within Korea, but are we going to use our influence to maybe spread the internet economy to the rest of Asia?
Right, yes, because we have some experience with the internet businesses, and it's very profitable.
Right.
And so there is a new emerging the new businesses are. You can witness. You can be a witness of new emerging businesses, such as there is a lot of new business models in there. So just like the Second Life and the UCC and the Web 2.0 is very popular in Korea, and there will be a lot of there might be a lot of business chance for us and the other countries. Also, in terms of privacy, in terms of the confidence, we have a lot of examples, a lot of experience with the material.
Let me ask you, Dick, what is Korea's current standard on issues of privacy law, intellectual property, and also national security? I mean, we know that a lot of people use the internet, but are we really doing all the things need to be done?
But I believe that the privacy is not a constant thing; it's a changing.
Okay.
So it's if you live in the different time, the meaning of the privacy should be different. But currently we have, I believe there is some gaps between our
Korean people are very freedom and independent, liberty-conscious people. You know that.
Right. That is a really big problem. It's currently big issues for us because the people's expectation about the protection of the privacy is really high.
Right.
But on the other hand, the measures that we have is not that can catch up with their demands. So because we have used the personal information for a long time. We didn't make any kind of perfect measures to protect their information. So it is really difficult at times. It is very difficult for us to catch up with their demands. Yeah. And also there is another gap, so the awareness of the dangers and their compliance about
intellectual property laws.
You're right.
Yes. A lot of kids they're getting sued by law firms and all. But
yes.
Due to interest of time, Dr. Wunsch-vincent, what do you think Korea's role in sharing and also playing a role in Asia in regard to internet economy? And I would like to have your last